This 10-minute video you're about to watch analyzes a small fraction of the Zionist war with words. Words that aid and abet Israel's genocide of Palestinians in Gaza. This language war took a most personal turn on the X social media platform on November 9, 2024, in a public thread started by a public figure. That thread eventually included racist insults and threats by Zionists against myself and my family, to the extent that MIT police got involved. Then Cambridge police had to increase the rounds around my home for my and my family safety. Then this war with words continued through November 13th, when a Zionist contingent visited my seminar for the MIT community. This was in the context of a semester-long course on language and linguistics for decolonization and liberation in Haiti, Palestine, and Israel. A seminar that was banned by my own department, MIT Linguistics. On November 13th, the Zionist contingent at my seminar included a Daily Wire reporter who came to class undercover, passing as, quote, a student of the Middle East, unquote. In this video, you're going to see two short excerpts from that very session that was written about in the Daily Wire on November 18th. Please compare, on the one hand, what I actually presented at that seminar on November 13th with, on the other hand, the article about that same seminar session in the Daily Wire on November 18th. If the reporter were really a student of the Middle East, as she pretended to be, then looks like she might be a really bad student. Indeed, the article shows very little understanding of Palestine, Israel, Judaism, Zionism, and so on and so forth. If you enjoyed this video, please share far and wide. Really important. Please also share comments and corrections as well, if needed. The complete videos of the seminar will be available in the new year on YouTube. Now, here comes the first audio excerpt from the seminar session of that November 13th, which is about a most lethal piece of language as a weapon that equates Zionism to Judaism. My response here is indebted to all the guest speakers who came to that seminar in the fall, especially these Palestinian, Jewish, and Israeli professors, Lila Farsak, Rabia Igbaria, Joseph Levine, and Nurit Piled Ilhanan, and one valiant graduate student, Holly Jackson. The first audio excerpt starts with a question from a participant about my statement during the presentation that the nation state, the ethno-nationalist state of Israel, a political colonial project, is not essential to Judaism as a religious faith. Have you ever seen a Jewish prayer book? Are you aware of how much it talks about Jewish return to Israel? It's the last thing at the Passover Seder, symbolized in a Jewish wedding too. What is your source from a Jewish religion expert saying Israel, quote, is not an essential part of Judaism? That's a very interesting topic, but as far as I can tell from my research is that there are different kinds of Judaism. And the one clear example of a kind of Judaism that opposes Zionism is the ultra-Orthodox Jews. And some of them came to campus to protest with the students against the genocide. And as far as I can tell, they also use Jewish prayer books. And I think it's like the Bible. If you look at different types of Christian faith, from the Catholics to the Anglican to the Protestants, they all read the Bible and they have different interpretations of it. So I assume it's the same thing for a Jewish prayer book, that some of them take Israel as literally this land in the Middle East, and others take it in a different way. But I know that there is a branch of Judaism that believe that the Israel that we have today that's committing the genocide is not what they want to be part of, because they believe that this Israel contradicts the basic fundamental Jewish faith. So obviously, there is as much diversity in how you interpret those prayer books as there is among Christians in terms of how they interpret the Bible. And the same is probably true of the Quran. We have Muslims here who can also tell us the ways that different Islamic faiths might interpret the Quran. Now comes the second excerpt, which is about the seminar presentations by Nurit Peled Elanan on, quote, mind infection, unquote, in Israel schools, and by Holly Jackson on anti-Palestinian, pro-Israel media biases and anti-Palestinian, pro-Israel lobbying on U.S. campuses. That excerpt is also indebted to Joseph Levine's presentation on disciplining the discourse about Palestine and Israel. So the term mind infection is not Nurit's term. It's a term that was coined by Richard Dawkins, talking about the selfish memes and showing how certain ideas take hold in communities. And she used that term because for her it was the best way to describe the ways in which, from a very young age, students, actually Jewish students in Israel, how, and it's very common, I had the same in Haiti, but from a different perspective, how the textbooks create ideologies that children absorb at a very young age. These ideologies really create brutal hierarchies of humanity, whereby they see themselves, and in Haiti it also happens in a different way between French speakers and Creole speakers, but in the case of Israel, what those textbooks do is to create grades of humanity where you have Western European Jews on top, then you have Eastern European Jews below that, then you have Mizrahi Jews, then you have Ethiopian Jews, and at the very bottom, very bottom, what you have is the Palestinians. And she uses terms like how the textbooks Nazify Palestinians, how by enlisting memories, the trauma, now this is a real trauma, where ideologues, textbooks, the school system weaponize the trauma of the Holocaust to Nazify Palestinians, because the Palestinians have become the new Nazis. And because the schools and the textbooks are so efficient in indoctrinating young children, they grow up with this trauma that make them fear that their existence is under threat by anyone who doesn't believe in the superior position of the Jewish people in Israel. And that goes back to the notion of, can you have a true democratic state that's built on this notion that one group is superior to others based on some classification. So you see titles here. And then, so she talked about this notion of mind infection in Israeli textbooks. And then just last week, we had Holly Jackson. A session was in two parts. Both parts that are so very timely to current events. Some of them very close to here, very painful. Others a bit further, but extremely timely. So the first part of Holly's presentation was about how she looked at 33,000 articles from the New York Times, starting with the first Intifada and ending around, actually before October 7th, like some 2022, I think. And what she showed in a very systematic way is that the choice of constructions, active versus passive, the choice of tone, the choice of words, all of that, brought together consistently discriminates against Palestinians. Well, there is no point to recap all of her analysis. You can go and look at a video. But what you should also is that the bias became worse and worse against Palestinians, even as the violence against them was increasing. So she showed that very clearly that, for example, the more killings happening among Palestinians, then the worse the coverage got against Palestinians. And then the second part of her presentation was about the on-campus Israel lobby, and how, this is the title, how it's a multi-million-dollar foreign-funded industry. Again, that goes back to the issue of our accessibility as intellectuals. Are we being bought to become complacent? Again, a thesis is extremely well researched. It's a master's thesis in human rights at Columbia. It's really powerful work, actually, that she started right at MIT as a student of Puya. Here again, I mean, we should be so grateful to Puya as being here at MIT and having given such support to students like Holly. But she saw the power of student groups and how the student groups influence students' worldviews and ideologies, but also, and this is perhaps where things get extremely complicated and worrisome, is the influence of money. How money is coming from outside the MIT, from outside the country, and it's not just MIT actually, it's in general other places as well, and how these funding actually fuel into the suppression of any viewpoint that's critical of Israel, right? And she shows that it's not just in the case of Israel and Palestine. There's been other cases of the same sort, where students' opinions and voices were being repressed because of various lobbies. But she focused on the Israel lobby, showing, for example, that organizations like Hillel, Shabbat, Olami, she documents very carefully where they get the fundings and how these fundings make them become agents of Zionism. And we'll see more of that later on, but one of the key points that she made is that this, what we often call this Palestine exception, is really a major issue. If you consider, for example, that at the foundation of education there should be democracy, free speech. There cannot be free speech if there is such repression going on because of funding coming from outside of the country. Okay, so she thinks that this is a major threat to free speech and to academic freedom, something which now is hitting us very closely here at MIT.